All right, now let's take a look at the implementation of our photo service. First, we have a compilation error here because we implemented this interface explicitly and it doesn't like the public modifier on this method. So let's just delete this. All right, the error is gone. Now let's see what's happening here. So basically, the first part of this method is all about storing a file. And the second part is about adding a photo object to the database. Now the problem we have with this implementation is that this mechanism for storing a file only works in your typical development environment. If you deploy this application to a cloud platform, this is not going to work because there your application is going to be loaded inside a virtual machine, and chances are this virtual machine is going to be wiped out and replaced by another virtual machine. So we should never use the file system of the virtual machine as a permanent storage for storing our photos. Instead, we should use our cloud storage. And this cloud storage is different from one provider to another. So if you want to deploy this to Azure, you're going to use a bunch of classes for storing this file in Azure Cloud Storage. If you want to deploy it to Amazon, your implementation is going to be different. So what I see here is that we need an interface like iPhoto Storage, and we're going to have different implementations based on where we're hosting this application. So once again, in the core folder, I'm going to add a new interface. Again, this is part of our application domain, iPhoto Storage. Here we're going to have one method, void store photo. Now let's see what parameters we need here. So back in the photo service, we need to know the uploads folder path and the actual file data. So I would add a parameter here, call it uploads folder path, and iForm file, which is the file object. So once again, this adds a dependency to ASP.NET Core, but for the purpose of this course or this section, let's not worry about that because we don't want to spend too much time on refactoring either, because all these refactorings are going to increase the development time, and we don't have unlimited time or unlimited budget for a project. So we should always have a balance in mind. So let's import the namespace here. All right, now let's implement this public class file system photo storage. So this is for our development environment. And in the future, we're going to have a different implementation for Azure. So this class implements iPhoto Storage. Now let's implement the interface and then move this class to a separate file. Okay, better. Now let's go back to our photo service. We're going to select this code, cut it, and paste it in our file system photo storage. Like this. Now let's import the namespaces. First, the directory class. Okay, we have only one compilation error because this method is not an async method. So we're going to apply async here and change this to task. Let's import the namespace. We should also change this in the interface. So replace void with task. Beautiful. Now back in the photo service, note that here we need the file name. That's the file name that our photo storage generates. So this should be the output or the return value of our new method. So once again, back in the interface, I'm going to change this to task of string. And similarly in file system photo storage, we're going to return a task of string. So once we store the photo, then we're going to return file name. Okay. Now let's go back to our photo service. We need to use our photo storage class here. So first, let's add a dependency. We need iPhoto storage, photo storage. Now let's initialize field from parameter. Beautiful. Now we call photo storage.store photo. What do we need here? Uploads folder path and file. Now here we await the result and store it in a variable called file name. Now look at this implementation. We only have 5 lines of code in this method. So our service is responsible for the high-level orchestration. It's delegating the task of storing photos to the photo storage class. Then it associates the photo with the given vehicle object and finally completes the unit of work, which will result in persisting this photo object in our database. Now in your application, maybe you want to send a notification message as an email or a text message to the user. So somewhere in your application, you're going to have a class like notification sender. And here you could do something like this: notification sender that send with some parameters. So once again, this photo service is responsible for the high-level orchestration. It's simply delegating to different classes. The details are encapsulated inside these target classes. Okay, so delete. Now let's register our new interface in the startup class. So startup. So services.add transient, iPhoto storage, and we bind this to file system photo storage. Now in the future, when we provide an implementation of this interface for Azure, we'll register this interface and its implementation conditionally based on the current environment. So if you're in a development environment, we're going to use file system photo storage. If you're in the production environment, we're going to use Azure Photo Storage.